Yo, what's up, humans? How you doing today? Man, it has been a very interesting past week and change. Definitely past 24 hours. Yesterday on the street below, got to witness about 10,000 protesters walk down the street, and it was cool. One, the way the police and the protesters were working together in so many words to keep everybody safe and to allow the voice be heard, the message be heard. The other thing was that when the protesters went back, so they were going down to the park to meet at the amphitheater that you can see, right? I don't know, you get it. That thing. Haha! That thing. When they were walking back, cars had already gotten onto the roadway, and protesters just like funneled around them, and then it ended up being 2 lanes for cars and 1 lane for protesters. And the reason why I kind of talk about this is because I think, especially as we look around the world, and I'm not going to claim to be the most informed person on this, the breadth of this, but we're learning to use our tools. So I think back to like the civil rights movement, and messages were spread, at large protests, but they were spread really grassroots style, and it took a lot of attention to get a voice and a narrative up to a level. This whole channel is about how humanity is evolving and what a type 1 civilization can look like, and what you can do as an individual, but also then sociologically what's happening. That is that they're the things that we see. Try to block the wind from the mic from the wind. Things that we're seeing that are indications we're moving towards a type 1 civilization, and one of them is a change in communication and the way we communicate. So, like I was saying about the 1960s, it was you had 1 or 2 voices. Very few voices at a very, very big level that were leading that narrative. You had a lot of smaller voices, but their reach was fairly small. And as protests have continued throughout history since then, they've kind of stayed in that vein until fairly recently. With the advent of Web 2.0. So a lot of people, maybe you don't know what Web 2.0 is. Web 2.0 is basically where the internet is able to, I'm going to really butcher this, so anybody out there who's a techie, sorry, I'm gonna really mess this up, but is the internet is able to support video and bandwidth in real time or near real time or things like that. So you have like the second generation of the internet. The first generation was everybody with like a GeoCities page. I'm dating myself, but or a Hotmail account or a Yahoo, and it was just static HTML web pages. And now you have dynamic content, and you're able to build applications on the internet and then interact with them and things like that. Anyway, that allowed video on social media. YouTube is a great example of that. But YouTube was really a replication of television. It was, I create content, I give it to you, and then unless somebody wanted to repost or have a comment thread, it was very difficult to share that exact content broadly. That has changed since, for example, Snapchat. One of Snapchat's big things was the ability to share videos and do do stories live. Sorry, so you could post your story. It's also about anonymous messaging. We don't care about that part of it. We really care about the ability to have a story. But you weren't really able to share your story. And then Instagram took that feature, and by Instagram, also Facebook took that feature. And not only now can you have a story in a video, but now you can share other people's. So now you're able to take what was once an email chain, or going back even further, television broadcasts, and you can take those little videos and you can share them. Yes, cool, Mike. Thank you for the introduction of the last 2 years of the internet. What does this matter about protests? Here's the interesting thing. So I have a friend who is a ballet teacher, and she's a fairly shy person. She is actually a ballet teacher with disabilities. She was involved in an accident a long time ago, and she walks differently than some of us. But she loves ballet. She loved ballet as a child, and she changed her career at one point in time to get back into ballet, and now she's teaching ballet. And she's talking about, she's in a relationship. It's interracial, and her boyfriend get scrutinized a lot, and they get looked at differently. And so she shared a post recently that talked about some of that, and it was pretty touching because it was real, and you could feel that there was a level of a depth of emotion to it that is necessary to have this conversation. The conversation of racism that we're having right now, institutionalized racism. And so she was messaging me. She's like, I shared that, and I've thought about making another post, but about ballet and teaching and how I use ballet to do this, but I don't really do it for the attention. So this is where my two threads are going to intersect. So you've got the internet and what you can do in terms of communication, and you've got my friend who is, sharing her personal experience. And one more thread's going to come into this. So there are presentations by people that talk about what a Type 1 civilization would look like, and one of them is by Jeff Bezos, and he talks about how if you're able to live and have millions of people in space, living and working in space, and they live there, and you're able to grow a society to, let's say, 1 trillion people, you're going to have 1,000 Mozarts, just because of the statistics. You're going to have 1,000 Einsteins and Teslas, and the genius and the ability to hit that genius and the probability of hitting it in the genetic lottery. You're going to have that number of people. So your civilization is going to, the idea is that the evolution of your civilization is going to speed up. So what does that really mean? Is that you have, so take that idea and graft it onto my friend who's a ballet teacher and the civil rights movement and the evolution of the internet, and what you have is that there used to be just one Martin Luther King. There used to be just one Mother Teresa or one Gandhi, and there used to be just a few people who had the loudest voice. Now, I think what's going to happen now is that we're not going to have 1 or 2 or 3 loud voices. We are going to have a cacophony of voices, all of our voices. And so those voices, what are they intended to do? They're intended to, one, make sure that the message is heard, that institutionalized racism will not be tolerated. The second one is that it's to help give power to those who are currently afraid to speak, or maybe they don't know how to. So my friend, she's like, I want to share this, but I don't want to do it for, I don't do it for the recognition. I'm like, don't do it for the recognition. Do it because you're going to give an example, and you're going to teach somebody else who maybe they don't know how to have their voice, and you're going to give them an example of what their voice can look like. That is the power that we have today, these little things that float around inside us, and those are the things that are going to take us to being a Type 1 civilization, because in order to get there, we have to be tolerant and inclusive. So, with that, what can you do to share your voice, to help somebody else find strength so they can have theirs? With that, I'll let you go on this Sunday. Have a great day. Peace.